First tonight, live pictures over the New York City skyline tonight after an historic day unlike any other in the history of American politics.
34 false statements made to cover up other crimes. We cannot and will not normalize serious criminal conduct.
Now, this was the scene in court earlier today. Former President Donald Trump pleading not guilty to dozens of felony charges. He is now the first former president to face criminal charges ever. The case against him involves not one or two, but three hush money payments. Now, prosecutors say a payment of $130,000 went to Stormy Daniels. Playboy model Karen McDougal got $150,000, and $30,000 went to a former Trump Tower doorman who claimed he had a story about a child Trump had out of wedlock. Now, Daniels was paid by former Trump lawyer Michael Cohen, allegedly. McDougal and the doorman were paid by AMI, the publishers of the National Enquirer. Now, the DA says Trump, Cohen, and the publishing company conspired to a catch-and-kill scheme. Now, New York state law says that it is illegal to conspire to promote a candidacy by unlawful means. And within the last hour, former President Trump responded to his charges from Mar-a-Lago. While speaking, he painted himself as a victim in a range of investigations spanning back to his presidential run in 2016. He also took digs at President Biden, his policies, and his family while repeating false election claims. He then focused his attention to Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, who he says never should have brought charges.
Who campaigned on the fact that he would get President Trump. I'm going to get him. I'm going to get him. This is a guy campaigning. You want to get President Trump at any cost, and this before he knew anything about me.
He claims the 34 counts he pleaded not guilty to are election interference. Bragg says he has enough evidence to convict Trump and that he's being treated no differently than other suspects in his jurisdiction. And we have team coverage on this case. National correspondent Atra Elnashar has a closer look at what's next.
A defiant former President Trump denying culpability in a case brought by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg.
And it should be dropped immediately.
The prosecution says, quote, the defendant Donald J. Trump repeatedly and fraudulently falsified New York business records to conceal criminal conduct that hid damaging information from the voting public during the 2016 presidential election.
These are felony crimes in New York State, no matter who you are.
Author of A Right to Lie, Presidents, Other Liars, and the First Amendment, Catherine Ross believes Bragg has a strong case, noting there's a trove of information we don't know yet, including underlying crimes Bragg believes occurred that make the charges felonies instead of misdemeanors.
The language in the statement of facts certainly points to a conspiracy. They allege that the falsehoods enabled tax fraud. And then there is a really important thread running through this that we still need more details on that has to do with election irregularities.
Unreported campaign contributions, she says, and potentially violating a New York state provision against defrauding voters. John Bolton, who's fallen out with Trump since serving as his national security advisor, says the case is even weaker than he feared.
The Federal Election Campaign Act absolutely preempts any state or local law to the contrary, so he's just wrong on the applicability of the New York statute.
Trump's legal team calling the case sad, planning to file motions to dismiss and to move the case outside of Manhattan, alleging political bias.
I have a Trump-hating judge with a Trump-hating wife and family. The criminal is the district attorney because he illegally leaked massive amounts of grand jury information.
The prosecution brought up concerns about Trump's social media posts and their potential to incite violence. The judge declined to issue a gag order, but says if he sees content like that in the future, he may have a different idea of what he should do. In Washington, I'm Atra Elnashar.
All right, here's a live look outside the White House as they just turned off the lights there. And once again, it avoided questions on Trump's indictment. The Biden administration has so far declined to give a reaction to the developments. Reporters, though, pressed the press secretary for an explanation as to why the White House will not comment.
When it comes to these types of cases, these criminal, specific cases, we're just not going to comment. I know there's a broad. I get you. I know there's a broader question of what this means, the precedent, and what the president is going to decide or make decisions that he might make, like hypothetical questions. I'm just not going to comment from here on that.
She also noted that the president was not given a heads up on Trump's indictment and found out about it through news reports. She says Biden will likely catch up on today's developments when he has a moment to go over the news of the day. Now, no surprise here, social media has been extremely active with political leaders responding to that arraignment. Lydia Bice is monitoring it all. And who are we hearing from there, Lydia?
Well, Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy took to Twitter this evening saying that Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is attempting to interfere in our democratic process by invoking federal law to bring charges against former President Trump, admittedly using federal funds, while at the same time arguing that the people's representatives in Congress lack jurisdiction to investigate what he calls a farce. Now, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer also tweeted about the indictment today, saying that he believes Donald Trump will have a fair trial that follows the facts and the law. He says that there is no place in our justice system for any outside influence or intimidation in the legal process. He also said that as the trial proceeds, protest is an American right, but all protests must be peaceful. Now, Stephen Miller, who is the senior advisor to former President Trump, tweeted, "This can't be said enough. President Trump is apparently being charged by a radical Manhattan DA for not using campaign funds to resolve a private matter." And then earlier today, Representative Maxine Waters from California said that Trump would be arraigned following the indictment by a grand jury in New York. She said he won't be shown giving his fingerprints or getting a mugshot, but it will happen. She also said that this is a true indication that no one is above the law. Back to you.
Lydia, thanks. And as we get more from the former president's arraignment, we'll alert you on air and through our Dayton 24/7 Now app. With that app, you can get breaking news alerts sent right to your phone. If you'd like, you can take out your camera, scan the QR code you see there, and download the app for free. You can also find it, of course, in the Google Play and Apple App Stores. And we'll have continuing coverage on this situation as we get any new information on air and online. You can read all of our coverage in one place at Dayton247now.com. All right, so our other big story tonight, and that is the weather. It may seem fine right now, but tomorrow it's going to be a much different story, right, Natalie?
Yeah, active weather in the forecast tomorrow afternoon and evening. That's why we have our code red weather alert. All modes of severe weather, damaging wind gusts going to be the main concern with any storms that develop during the day tomorrow. We could see an isolated tornado. That's a risk too. And then large hail also going to be a potential with anything that develops for our day on Wednesday as well. So right now it's quiet, but here's a look at our level 3 threat for severe weather. So an enhanced risk for severe storms for the entire Miami Valley. Bigger picture here. You can see how that expands all the way down into parts of Arkansas and Tennessee. Going to likely see the highest risk just off to our northwest, but either way, almost the entire state of Ohio under that level 3 threat for severe storms. So we're going to be tracking them very closely by later into the day. But for right now, it is mild. We're in the 60s. It's very warm, mid 60s across the board. And for kids heading out to the bus stop, be prepared for some storms by the afternoon and evening hours. We will see potentially an isolated storm around lunchtime, upper 70s by the afternoon, though. And again, that severe threat will be by the late afternoon and evening. So coming up, I'm going to time it all out for you, talk about our threats and what we'll see right here in the Miami Valley in just a bit.
Natalie, thanks. The National Weather Service also confirming 5 additional tornadoes touched down in our area over the weekend. That brings the total to 6. You can see on this map, EF0 tornadoes were confirmed in St. Mary's, Pleasant Hill, Minster, Troy, and West Milton, and EF1 was confirmed in Wapakoneta. Now, as you probably noticed, it's been an active start to severe weather season, and Gwyneth Falloon is live now after speaking with experts with the National Weather Service. Gwen, why do they think we're seeing such a high level of activity now?
So, Adam, a lot of the severe weather and tornadoes that we've experienced in recent weeks is likely a product of the warm weather that we've had and enjoyed within the last few months. This is all according to Kristen Cassidy with the NWS in Wilmington.
Typically, when we get unusual warmth and moisture, given the stronger wind fields that are still lingering from the winter season, that typically sets us up for rounds of severe weather. And indeed, that's been the case. In fact, within the region, we've had a tornado actually confirmed every month thus far this year.
And Gwen, did they have any predictions for the remainder of the season now?
Unfortunately, no, Adam. Cassidy tells me it's really difficult to predict what exactly the future is going to look like. The NWS says we could have one or two series of events like we saw in 2019, or could even be relatively quiet. However, that's why they warn that it is really important to practice safety drills and have a safe place that you can get to easily. They recommend a basement or the interior most part of your building if you live in something like an apartment. The NWS also says to always be prepared and be alert, and you can find those weather alerts. We also have an app as well. Back to you.
Gwen, thanks. Live pictures from our ODOT cameras as a new distracted driving law takes effect. This law will target drivers who use their phones on the road. And we do want to help you stay up to date on what's legal, what's not. So Milena Brown met with the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office and law experts to get answers.
For the next 6 months, anyone pulled over for one of the new distracted driving laws will get issued a warning. But come October, fines will kick in. Anyone texting, calling, scrolling social media, or even just having your phone in your hand could cost you dollars and points on your license, starting at 2 points and up to a $150 fine.
The main thing you should remember, unless all it takes is one press or one swipe, it's probably illegal.
In terms of legality, being pulled over for using your phone does not give the officer probable cause to search that phone. They would need a warrant. And if you feel as though you weren't using your phone and want to take the case to court, it will be ultimately up to the judge to decide the final legal action. For Dayton 24/7 Now News, I'm Milena Brown.
Former President Trump speaking from Mar-a-Lago after his indictment earlier today. What he has to say about the New York District Attorney's claims. And the Ohio State University is learning from that mass casualty event and teaching students and staff how to stay safe. The steps they're taking to limit the loss of life in that event of a disaster.
Plus, severe storms possible for Wednesday afternoon and evening. I'll time it all out for you coming up. Here's a live look from our Eco Plumber Skycam. You're watching Dayton 24/7 Now.
Continuing coverage tonight of a historic day in U.S. politics. Former President Donald Trump, now the first former U.S. president to face criminal charges. Trump responded to these charges earlier tonight. Luli Ortiz continues our team coverage with an in-depth look at his response.
Just hours after pleading not guilty to 34 felony charges of business fraud during his arraignment in Manhattan Tuesday, former President Donald Trump was on stage at his Mar-a-Lago estate getting his thoughts on the record.
And I never thought anything like this could happen in America. Never thought it could happen. The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it.
The former commander-in-chief cheered by hundreds of supporters in the audience, calling these charges election interference and attacking prosecutor Alvin Bragg as politically motivated and guilty of criminal conduct himself.
The criminal is the district attorney because he illegally leaked massive amounts of grand jury information, for which he should be prosecuted, or at a minimum, he should resign.
He also got out in front of two other investigations going on right now, which could have more serious consequences regarding alleged election interference in Georgia and his potential unauthorized possession of classified documents, arguing President Biden is getting a free pass for the hundreds of boxes of documents he's got.
They seem to have forgotten about his documents entirely. So many, thousands and thousands.
In closing, the 45th President of the United States repeated a familiar theme that he is being prosecuted and persecuted for daring to challenge the political class that has controlled the nation for too long.
Incredibly, we are now a failing nation. We are a nation in decline. And now these radical left lunatics want to interfere with our elections by using law enforcement. We can't let that happen. I have no doubt, nevertheless, that we will make America great again.
Well, it was a warm one today, and it's going to be another warm one tomorrow. But with the warmth and the humidity, we're also tracking the threat for some severe storms. So we'll want to stay weather aware, but for right now, it's a quiet evening. Going to stay pretty quiet overnight. We have pretty much an overcast sky at this hour. Severe weather has been off to our west. Got a pretty long severe thunderstorm watch extending from Oklahoma all the way up into parts of Wisconsin. Going to be monitoring the potential for strong winds as we head into the day tomorrow as a cold front swings its way through. So timing it all out for you, it's going to be really warm overnight, 70s as you wake up early tomorrow morning. And then pausing this here at about 2 p.m. Can't rule out a shower or a storm earlier into the afternoon. I do think our main risk is going to be with our cold front as it makes its way through. Likely after 4 p.m. until about 8 p.m. that line of storms will have the potential to produce some damaging wind gusts. There is that low-end tornado potential and also some large hail. As that heads off to the east, though, we'll eventually see things clear out and cool off as we head into our day on Thursday. So coming up, I'll have more on that, and plus windy one for our Wednesday, too. I'll talk about some strong winds as well.
Natalie, thanks. The ride-sharing company Lyft has asked a court to dismiss a wrongful death lawsuit against them after a driver was shot and killed in Dayton. In that motion, Lyft says Brandon Cooper's widow fails to state a claim. Cooper was killed in January of last year after picking up 4 teens. Now, the lawsuit says Lyft didn't warn Cooper of an earlier crime that took place that could have prevented his death. No official ruling has been made as of tonight. Montgomery County Prosecutor Matt Heck Jr. is recognizing April as National Child Abuse Prevention Month. According to the CDC, 1 in 4 kids are abused or neglected at some point before reaching adulthood. Heck says child abuse is preventable and can be stopped in most cases by just speaking up.
Again, that's why we say, see something, say something, because we really rely on, and this is nationwide, on caregivers, on teachers, on people in the community who put another set of eyes on these children that they're not getting at home.
Heck also reminded parents to monitor their kids' online activity, also discussed a new campaign for the ABCs of safe sleep. That's alone on their back and in an empty crib. Billboards will be put up over the next month to remind people. For the first time, the officers who responded to the deadly shooting at a Nashville elementary school are speaking publicly about what happened that day. Detective Sergeant Jeff Mathis, Detective Michael Colazzo, and Officer Rex Engelbert were among the first to arrive on scene. Each detailed the events of that day from their own point of view. UD grad Officer Engelbert described what it was like receiving the active shooter call.
I really had no business being where I was. I think you can call it fate or God or whatever you want, but I can't count on both my hands the irregularities that put me in that position.
Police say 28-year-old Audrey Hale shot and killed 6 people at the small Christian elementary school last week. A motive for that shooting is not yet known. Ohio State, meanwhile, training for mass casualty events, hoping they'll never have to deal with one. But this way, they are prepared. Miles Harris gives us a look at what they're doing to save lives.
Medics throughout Central Ohio, they were given a crash course today on how to respond when tragedy strikes. The emergency staff over at OSU's Wexner Medical Center, they were able to go through real-life training scenarios on really how to go through the paces when that emergency does strike. Carrie Valdez, she leads the trauma service over at the OSU Wexner Medical Center, and she kind of broke down exactly how doing these drills when the actual event happens makes things smoother, but also gives them a chance to save several lives. Now, they also hope that they never have to deal with these situations, but again, when tragedy does strike, they want to be as prepared as possible. On your side at OSU Wexner Medical Center, I'm Miles Harris for Dayton 24/7 Now News.
All right, a live look from our Eco Plumber Skycam over downtown Dayton tonight. Beautiful evening, but tomorrow things are going to change dramatically as the day progresses. Right, Natalie?
Yeah, severe storms are in the forecast for tomorrow, but we're also tracking just some windy conditions during the day, too. So even without the thunderstorms, we're going to see some pretty strong wind gusts. Here's a look at our wind advisory. This is from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. tomorrow. Sustained winds 15 to 25 miles per hour, but some wind gusts potentially up to 45 miles per hour. This is about 5 a.m. So even earlier into the morning, the winds will start to kick up. We'll continue this. This is about lunchtime, 45, maybe close to 50 mile per hour wind gusts for our northern counties. So overall, plan on it being just a really breezy one during the day tomorrow. It does look like our winds will calm down by the evening once those storms really begin to push out of the region as well. So windy conditions could cause potentially some downed tree limbs, some power outages. So we'll be monitoring that as well as our severe weather risk. I'll have another look at that severe risk coming up here in just a little bit.
Natalie, thanks. A new distribution center opening up in the Miami Valley, the hundreds of jobs it's expected to bring to our area. Also, an award ceremony held for law enforcement tonight, why leaders say it's so important to recognize the good work officers do in the line of duty. You're watching Dayton 24/7 now. The Washington Township Fire Department gave one of their crews a life-saving award. 9 members received that award from an incident that happened back in February of last year, where